Hi guys, are you in nursing school or a nurse already and have to do dosage calculation, but you notice every time you get ready to do it, you get really confused and unsure of yourself? Well, guess what? Today I'll do 5 dosage calculation problems and it'll give you the blues, but not the blues in a bad way. It'll actually help you to earn and gain and keep your blue scrubs. Okay guys, in problem number 1, it says, Mrs. Leah is prescribed 300 milligrams of ampicillin. The medication is available as 100 milligram tablets. How many tablets should the nurse give? Okay, as always, if you watched my first video, I'll link it either now or at the end of the video so you guys can check it out. You guys know that when I get ready to do my dosage calculation, I always like to start with what they're asking us for and go from there, because at the end, it'll leave me with what I need to know. So first, I want to highlight how many tablets should the nurse give. So I know that I need to end with tablets. Okay? All right, so let's go back into the problem and figure out all the things we really need, okay? We know that Leah is prescribed 300 milligrams of ampicillin. The medication is available as 100 milligram tablets. So that lets us know that there's 100 milligrams per tablet, okay? So I know that one tab is 100 milligrams. Okay, now what can I use to cross out milligrams, because at the end of my problem, I don't want to be left with anything but tablets. Lord, does that say tables? All right, how about we fix that before we go on? Okay, all right, so not tables. We want to make sure that we end with tablets, okay? We don't need no tables here, okay? All right, so I know that I have 1 milligram tab, and that's equivalent to 100 milligrams, okay? Let me go back in my problem and see what I can use to cross out milligrams, because I won't need that. So it says Mrs. Leah is prescribed 300 milligrams of ampicillin, all right? So I know I need milligrams in order to cancel out this milligram. So if I take 300 milligrams, all right? Let's see, if I cross that out and cross that out, I'm left with tablets. So that's a good thing. I want to be left with what I need, nothing more, nothing less. All right, so what I'm going to do now is multiply across. 1 tab times 300 milligrams is 300. All right, I want to multiply across here, and I want to do 100 times 1. All right, 300 divided by 100 gives you 3, not tables, but tablets. All right, easy as 1, 2, 3, ABC again. Okay. Problem number 2, okay? Miss Savannah is ordered 250 milligrams of Robitussin, okay? Some of that good old tussin. The bottle label reads 50 milligrams per 5 milliliters. How many milliliters should the nurse have? All right, first let's see what the problem is asking us for so we know what we need to end up with. All right, so it's saying how many milliliters should the nurse give? So I know that I need to end my equation with milliliters. So that's what I'm going to write first. All right, milliliters, because at the end of my equation and all of my problem solving, I want to make sure that I end up with milliliters only. I don't want to end up with anything else. I want to make sure that when I'm doing my problem, I'm able to cross out everything that I don't need so that I'm only left with what I do need. Okay? All right, so let's see how many milliliters I have. So let me go back to my problem and pick out the things that I need so that I can solve this equation perfectly. Okay? All right, so it says Mrs. Savannah is ordered 250 milligrams of Robitussin. The bottle label reads 50 milligrams per 5 milliliters. All right, so I'm going to start with milliliters because that's what I want to be ending with. and I know that there's 50 milligrams per 5 milliliters. So I'm gonna put that there. All right, let me go back into my equation and see what I can pick from this equation so that I can cross out milligrams because I don't need that. All right, so let me see. Miss Savannah is ordered 250 milligrams. So I know that. All right, of Robitussin. Okay, so it looks like I should be ready to solve. All right, so 5 times 250 is 1250. All right, 50 times 1 is 50. That leaves me with 1,250 over 50, and 5 times 250 gives me that. 50 times 1 gives me that. And after I divide these two, it's going to leave me with 25. Therefore, I know that after crossing out the things that I don't need, I'm only left with what I need, and I know that I have 25 milliliters. All right? You just got that answer right. In this equation, let's see what it's asking us for, and let's go ahead and solve it. An order calls for 1,000 milliliters of IV fluid to run over 8 hours. Okay, what infusion rate in milliliters per hour should the pump be set to? Okay, you want to make sure you get this right because it's very important that you make sure you set the pump straight. Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and solve it and get this correct. All right, so let's see what it's asking us for first, because we know that we want to start off the equation with what it's asking us for so that we know that we can be left with that at the end and nothing else, okay? So it says, what infusion rate in milliliters per hour should the pump be set to? So we know at the end, we want to be left with milliliters per hour. So let's go ahead and work this problem out, okay? Milliliters per hour. All right, so let's see how many milliliters we have. Okay, let's go back to the equation, and it says an order calls for 1,000 milliliters of IV fluid. All right, so we know that we need 1,000 milliliters of IV fluid. Okay, and how many hours? Okay, so we know that it says that the IV fluid is to run over 8 hours, okay? So if we let this run over 8 hours, we can go ahead and solve for our equation. 1,000 milliliters divided by 8 gives us 125 milliliters per hour, okay? And there's our answer. So when we set this pump, we know that this patient is going to get the exact medication at the exact rate that the doctor prescribed it. Okay guys, let's go to our next equation. All right, a bag of 500 mLs is to infuse over 4 hours using tubing that delivers 15 drips per milliliter. All right, what is the drip rate in drips per minute? All right, so again, to start this equation, we want to make sure that we're putting first what we need to end the equation with, okay? And we know we need to end the equation with drips per minute because that's what they're asking us for, okay? So what is the drip rate in drips per minute? All right, so I'm going to start off with drips per minute. Okay, now let's go back to the problem, break it down, decode it, and see exactly how we need to set this equation up. Okay, so it says a bag of 500 mLs is to infuse over 4 hours using tubing that delivers 15 drips per 1 ml. Okay, so I know that I can start with drips. Okay, so I'll come here and put that there's 15 drips per 1 ml because that's what my equation is telling me. All right, how can I get to minutes? Okay, let's continue reading our problem. All right, it says that a bag of 500 ml is to infuse over 4 hours. So I know that 500 mLs is to infuse over 4 hours. So I'll come here and put this. All right, so in doing so, I can cross out milliliters, and I've gotten rid of that. But it looks like I have left drips per hours. I don't need drips per hours. I need drips per minute. All right, so then that's when I'll further break this down, and I know that there's 1 hour per 60 minutes. Okay, so if I cross this out and this out, I'm left with drips per minute. All you gotta do is multiply across, and it's easy as 1, 2, 3. At this point, I have 7,500 divided by 240. That's gonna give me 31.2 drips per minute. And as you know, I don't know actually if you do know, but you can't set a pump to half a drip. It's either gonna be a drip or it's not gonna be a drip. Okay, so if you're left with 31.2 drips per minute, you're just going to convert that to 31 drips a minute. So there we go, that's our answer. We were looking for drips per minute. We decoded our problem and we put first what we were looking for and what we wanted to end the equation with. And then from there, we just kind of broke it down, crossed out the things that we didn't need, and we were only left with the things that we did need. And then that's when we went ahead and figured out that we had a total of 31 drips per minute. Okay, so let's go ahead and read our problem, decode it, and go ahead and figure out this equation. Okay, a patient needs 250 micrograms of cefepime. The vial concentration is 2 milligrams per milliliter. Okay, how many milliliters should be given? All right, so to start our equation, let's go ahead and solve it how we do all of them. We want to make sure that we're starting the equation with what we need to end with, okay? All right, so we know that it says how many milliliters should be given. So we know we're looking for milliliters, okay? Now let's go ahead and plug in, cross out accordingly. All right, it says a patient needs 250 micrograms of cefepime. The vial concentration is 2 milligrams per 1 milliliter. All right, so I know I have 1 milliliter is 2 milligrams. Now let's go back to our problem and see what we can use to cross out milligrams, because we know that we only need to end with milliliters. And so we're gonna plug in what we can cross out so that we can end with only what we need. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, let's go back to the problem, decode it, and pull out exactly what we need. Okay, So let's see. A patient needs 250 micrograms of cefepime. Now, you see here that the problem is telling us that the medication comes in micrograms, okay? We're trying to cross out milligrams. Let's go into our problem and see what we can use to cross out milligrams, okay? We know that there's 250 micrograms, okay? We know that we can turn micrograms into milligrams. It's actually something we'll need to do in order to solve this equation, because we can't solve it correctly if one is milligrams and one is micrograms. So we'll need to convert the micrograms into milligrams, okay? So this is how I'm gonna do it. 250 micrograms, okay? All right, now how am I gonna turn that into milligrams? Okay, I know that I can start here, go 3 place values over, okay? That's going to give me 0.250. Now that I've done that, it's milligrams. So that 250 micrograms, by just converting over using my conversion table, it will allow me to convert the micrograms into milligrams, okay? Which is exactly what I need to do in order to move forward with my problem. So boom, boom, that's what I want to do. And I only want to be left with what the equation is asking me for, and that's milliliters. Looks like that's all I'm going to be left with. So let's go ahead and finish out here. All right, it looks like I have 1 times 0.250 milliliters over 2, okay? All right, so I said milliliters because, as you see, I was able to cross out milligram and milligram. That's the whole point of it all. I want to make sure that when I'm solving, I'm only left with what the equation is asking me for, nothing more, nothing less. I want to make sure that I'm crossing out what I don't need, because you don't want to be left with too much information. That's how you get confused, and you don't want to get confused, trust me. All right, yeah, because then that leads to wrong medication dosage, mitis, all the things. You don't want to start delving in that already. So we're gonna divide now. 0.250 milliliters divided by 2, that's going to leave us with 0.125 milliliters. All right, guess what? You just got that correct. I know it kind of looked like it might be a doozy, but guess what? It wasn't. The patient needs 250 micrograms of cefepime, and the vial concentration is 2 milligrams per milliliters. How many milliliters should the nurse give? She's gonna give 0.125 milliliters. Okay guys, so this wraps up our 5 problems. I wanted to make sure that this video was short and sweet. Didn't want to drag it out too long, but I did want to come and leave some jewels for you guys to use when you're trying to figure out your dosage calculation, because it is very important. You want to make sure that you're giving your patient the right medication.